continuing on from video 5, where we were counting spaces. We're going to move this one further towards its conclusion, whereas it's actually words that we want to count, and we've been counting spaces in order to get us to the stage where if we add one on, when we know that's the number of words. But as I pointed out in the previous video, if I had a couple of spaces in between like that, because we're counting spaces and add one, it now thinks there's 7 words there. So we need a way of getting around that. And there's a couple of things that we could do, not all successful. I could create a variable, like a Boolean type variable that stores the value either true or false, and maybe decide that if I've come across a space, then don't count the next character if it's a space as well. But that would only work if there was 2 spaces. Ideally what I need to do is, whenever I come to a space and I count that space, don't reset or don't add anything to the counter again until we've had or come across a non-space character, or wait until we come back again. So let's see what we would do there. So we still need to know the number of words. So we still have our variable. The length is still the same. We're still going around that number of times, and we're still looking for spaces. But what I want to do is, whenever I do come across a space and I add one onto it, I want to increase, in other words, move on to the next character and the next character until I come across a non-space character. So let's see at least one way of doing that. So I've come across a space, I've added one onto that. So what I'm going to do in there, I'm going to have a while loop, and I'll say, well, if I do the double tap of the tab key, I'll say while, let's see, it's this substring I'm looking at. So take a little copy of that. So we'll say while txt input.text.substring i,1 is equal to a space. I'm going to get it to do something, and what I want it to do, I just want to say I++. So I'm just moving I onwards. So if the next character is a space, it should do the same again, and it'll only come out whenever it comes across a non-space character. And once it does come across that non-space, it should go out of this statement, back to for loop, and if I still hasn't reached the conclusion, in other words the length of the string, well then it'll go around again. So let's run that, test the output, and I'll test it with Mary Had a Little Lamb to make sure it's still getting the 5, which it is. Add in a space in between, we're still getting the 5. If I add, let's say, a few spaces in different places, right, I'm still getting the 5 there. Just to prove that it is changing, I think we'll add a clear button onto the form here. So I'm going to copy the run code button. So we'll do Control C to copy, Control V to paste another button on there. I'll change the name of the button, okay, to btn_clear, and the text property I'll change to clear. So if I double click on clear, okay, it takes me in the click event for the clear button, which you can see is just below the run button. And all I'm going to do there is take the rich text box, which is called output, and take a method, just invoke a method called clear. So if I run that, click on run code, got the 5, clear, we'll clear that out again. So there's the 5, clear. So if I do put in a few spaces in between run code, I'm still only getting the 5. Now, I'm not going to take this one any further, but we still would get potential problems for that we would treat separately if we had spaces that maybe before or after the sentence. There's commands that most languages have for trimming leading spaces and trimming trailing spaces, and it usually would be like L trim for trimming spaces off the left hand side, R trim for the right hand side, and there's usually a command just called trim that would do the whole lot. So you can look up what C# has as an equivalent to a trim command. But what I would like you to try, and I will cover it in the next video, but I would like you to try it yourself first of all, is whatever the sentence is here, and in this case it's Mary had a little lamb, I would like it so whenever you click run code, it prints the sentence out backwards. So it would print out lamb little A had Mary. So lamb little A had Mary. So that means basically that you're going to have to isolate words and then display them. So it's not just characters, you're going to have to count until you get a word. In other words, find a space, store that word, print it out. So it is a wee bit tricky, but the simple part of it, just whenever you're doing it, is just to start at the end and look for spaces, going back a ways, and your for loop essentially there would just start at the length -1, working its way to 0. So that's a wee bit of a head start for you. Let's see how you get on with that, and try not to have a wee look at video 6 where I'll provide a solution to that. Try not to have a wee look at that until you've done, or at least had a good attempt at doing that yourself.